My wrists burned as I tore free from the ropes, the air in the abandoned warehouse heavy with gasoline's acrid bite, like sap from a wounded tree. Chloe and Lily, my sisters, clung to each other, their breath shallow, as wide as moons caught in a storm. Richard, my uncle, had bound us here, his laughter a jagged scar in the silence, as he rigged the place to erupt in flames. I knew his kind, men whose hearts withered under greed's weight, trading love for power's hollow shine. My fingers, unsteady but sure, worked at Chloe's knots, then Lily's. My voice a whisper against the chaos. We're leaving now. The walls moaned, sagging under the threat of fire, as sparks danced in the shadows, hungry as wolves. Smoke curled thick, stinging my lungs. But I pulled my sisters forward, their hands small anchors in mine. A rusted door loomed ahead, its hinges groaning like ancient roots. I kicked it, feeling the wood splinter, once, twice, until it collapsed, shards scattering like fallen petals. Beyond, the night opened, and FBI agents surged in, their boots pounding, voices sharp, led by Special Agent Hayes, his flashlight ablaze through the haze. Sirens wailed, weaving urgency into the dark, but my chest stayed knotted. We'd escaped death's grip, but Richard's betrayal ran deeper, a river carving through our family's core. How had I, a girl shaped by loss, landed in this trap, hunted by kin? The stars above watched, silent as stones, as I held Chloe and Lily close, their warmth a fragile shield. The wind carried ash, but also whispers of dawn, urging me to unearth the truth, no matter how deep its thorns lay buried. I'd face it, for them, for us. Though the path felt like walking barefoot through frost. Each step burned, but I learned pain could forge strength, like rivers shaping stone over time. 3 months back, I was Maya, a 7-year-old ghost, curled on a bench at a forsaken roadside stop, chasing echoes of Grandma Sarah's lullabies. Her porch, weathered and creaking, had cradled my world, her tales of stars and streams my only compass. David Miller, a man whose wealth couldn't hide his gentle gaze, found me there. His twin daughters, Chloe and Lily, stared, their faces mirroring mine, as if we'd been woven from the same thread. "You belong with us," Chloe murmured, her voice soft as morning dew. I shrank back, schooled in invisibility, my heart weary of trust. David's questions were kind, but his eyes held a quiet storm. I told him Grandma had slipped away, her absence a wound raw as torn bark. His words, careful as a gardener's touch, stirred hope in me, though I knew hope could wound deeper than despair, like sunlight scorching tender leaves. Grandma's last night haunted me, a shadow that clung like damp earth. Her voice quivered on the phone, clashing with a man over the truth. I told David. She'd hissed, then hung up. Dawn found her lifeless, her hand cold as frost, the air thick with roses and cigarette smoke. That scent, it was Richard, David's brother, his silver hair sharp as a blade's edge. I'd seen him once, his smile a trap. In dreams, he loomed, vowing I'd vanish like mist. Telling David felt like betraying Grandma's secrets, but Chloe's grip steadied me. "You're ours," she said. Fear whispered the truth might break us, scattering our bond like leaves in a bitter gale. Yet I'd face it, for her, for us. David brought me to his home, a place of polished floors and wide windows, but I felt like a sparrow among swans. Chloe and Lily welcomed me, their laughter bright, yet I sensed whispers behind closed doors. David's staff watched me, their glances sharp as thorns, as if I were an intruder in their orderly world. At dinner, I fumbled with heavy silverware, my hands clumsy, used to Grandma's chipped mugs. Chloe nudged me, giggling, but the weight of being seen pressed hard. I was their sister, they said. Yet I felt like a leaf caught in a stream, tumbling where I didn't belong. David's kindness was steady, but his eyes held questions, and I wondered if he saw me as a burden. The twins' chatter filled the silence, but I stayed quiet, my voice locked away, fearing it would crack like dry clay. Outside, the garden stretched wide, its roses nodding in the breeze. But even their beauty felt distant, as if I had no right to touch it. I'd known rejection before strangers' cold stares, Grandma's neighbors who'd turned away. Here, it was softer but no less real. A reminder I was an outsider, grafted onto a family that didn't yet know me. Each night, I lay awake, tracing the ceiling's shadows, wondering if I could ever take root in this strange, new soil. The stars through the window offered no answers, only a quiet challenge to endure. I clutched Grandma's locket, its worn metal warm against my skin, and vowed to find my place, even if it meant facing the ache of not fitting in. The truth hit like a stone through still water. David sat us down, his voice steady but heavy, revealing a doctor's report. Chloe, Lily, and our triplets, not twins and a stranger. The birth records lied, altered to erase me, as if I'd been plucked from the family's vine. Chloe squeezed my hand, her joy fierce, but I felt a chill, like frost on new buds. Lily's eyes searched mine, promising loyalty, yet I sensed a crack in our bond, a question of why I'd been hidden. David spoke of his late wife, Eleanor, whose medical files hinted at secrets, discrepancies in her care, shadows in her death. I saw his pain, raw as torn earth, and felt my own stir. Grandma had known something, her last words a warning. But who had silenced her? Richard's name lingered in my thoughts, his scent of roses and smoke a specter. I wanted to believe in this family, but doubt gnawed, sharp as a fox's teeth. Had someone meant to bury me, to sever me from my sisters? The revelation bound us closer, yet it also exposed a wound, one that pulsed with betrayal's sting. I lay awake, the locket heavy, and asked myself, if I was theirs, why had I been cast out like a seed unwanted in fertile ground? I couldn't stay silent. That night, I crept to David's study, my heart pounding like rain on a tin roof. I told him of Grandma's final call, her voice sharp with fear, her mention of the truth and his name. Richard's shadow loomed larger now, his silver hair a warning in my dreams. He was there, I whispered, the words heavy as stones. David's face tightened, but he listened, his silence a promise. Chloe, overhearing, slipped in, her eyes fierce. We'll find out, she vowed, her hand in mine. I hesitated, fear coiling like ivy, but her courage sparked mine. I spoke of the scent, roses, smoke, Richard's mark. It was my first defiance, small but sharp, like a seedling breaking through frost. David nodded, his gaze distant, as if seeing ghosts. I felt exposed, my truth laid bare, yet stronger, as if roots were forming in unsteady ground. The locket warmed against my chest, Grandma's love urging me on. I wasn't just a lost girl anymore. I was a sister, a piece of a fractured whole, demanding answers. The night outside hummed, alive with possibility, and I knew this was only the beginning, a step toward unearthing the betrayal that had torn me from my place. Fear coiled inside me, a vine tightening around my heart, as I lay in David's guest room, the dark pressing like damp earth. Nightmares came unbidden, Richard's silver hair glinting, his voice promising I'd vanish, just as Grandma had. I saw her face, cold and still, her last words about the truth, echoing like a river's endless murmur. I feared losing Chloe and Lily, their warmth the only anchor in this new life. What if Richard's shadow stretched further, snatching them too? I clutched Grandma's locket, its metal a faint pulse against my skin. But it couldn't quiet the dread. I was a triplet, yet felt like a ghost, haunting a family that might not keep me. David's kindness was real, but his silences grew heavier, as if he sensed the same storm I did. The house, with its gleaming halls, felt like a cage, its walls whispering doubts. Could I belong here? Or was I a seed sown in hostile soil, doomed to wither? My dreams bled into waking hours, each creak of the floor a warning. I wanted to run, to hide where Richard's eyes couldn't find me, but running meant abandoning my sisters, betraying the fragile roots we'd begun to grow. The stars outside gleamed, cold but steady, urging me to face the fear, not flee it. I was 7. But I learned young that fear could carve you hollow if you let it. I wouldn't. I'd hold fast, like a tree against a gale, for Chloe, for Lily, for the truth Grandma died protecting, even if it meant standing alone in the gathering dark. Richard's threat bared its teeth soon after. David found papers, hidden accounts tied to a trust, only active if he had fewer than 3 heirs. My existence threatened millions, a fortune Richard craved. At a family gathering, he cornered me, his smile sharp as a blade, his scent of roses and smoke choking. "You don't belong," he hissed, loud enough for guests to turn, their eyes pinning me like a moth. A street rat among roses. Chloe gasped, but the room stayed silent, complicit. I felt stripped. My place in this family questioned before strangers. David stepped forward, but Richard's allies, men in suits, their nods cold, flanked him, a public warning. I was the flaw, the unwanted third, and Richard wielded that truth like a whip. The garden outside, once a refuge, now seemed to mock me, its blooms indifferent. I wanted to shrink, to vanish as he'd vowed, but Lily's hand brushed mine. A quiet defiance. The shame burned, yet it sharpened my resolve, like flint struck to spark. Richard thought he'd break me, but his cruelty was a mirror, showing me what I'd survived. I'd face him. Not as a child, but as a sister, rooted in love he couldn't touch, even if the world watched, judging, waiting for me to fall. Something shifted that night. I sat by the window, the locket heavy in my palm, and felt a spark, faint but alive, like a seed stirring beneath frost. I wasn't just a victim of Richard's schemes. I was Maya, shaped by Grandma's love, tempered by loss. I had worth, not because of David's name or the triplet bond, but because I'd endured. I whispered to the stars, I'll keep going. It was a vow, small but fierce, to protect my sisters and unearth the truth. Chloe's belief in me, Lily's quiet strength, they were enough to hold on to. I thought of Grandma, her voice steady even in fear, and knew I carried her courage, like sap rising in spring. Richard could threaten, but he couldn't erase me. I'd fight, not with his venom, but with the stubborn will of a weed breaking through stone. The night felt less heavy, the dark a canvas for hope. I wasn't alone. I had purpose, a light to chase, even if the path was jagged. I'd survive, for us, for the family we could be, and for the justice waiting beyond the storm. I couldn't let Richard's shadow smother me. Driven by a restless need, I began searching for answers, my curiosity a flame flickering against the dark. David had old files in his study, papers from Eleanor, his late wife, my mother I'd never known. I slipped in at dawn, the house silent, and pored over faded documents, their edges curling like autumn leaves. Birth records caught my eye, mine was missing, a void where Chloe's and Lily's names stood clear. Eleanor's medical notes hinted at tampering, dates misaligned, signatures too neat. I traced each line, heart racing, as if unearthing roots buried deep. Grandma's locket felt heavier, urging me on. I asked David about Eleanor, watching his face cloud, like a sky before rain. He spoke of her love for us, but his voice faltered when I pressed about her death. I visited the library, sifting through public records, my fingers smudged with ink. A clerk, kind but hesitant, helped me find an old article about Eleanor's passing, its words vague, unsettling. Was I wrong to dig? The question gnawed, but so did the truth, sharp as a thorn. I sketched timelines in a notebook, connecting Richard's name to odd transactions David mentioned, a trust fund, a fortune tied to our numbers. Each clue was a pebble, building a path through the fog. The garden outside whispered patience, its vines steady despite storms. I wasn't just a lost girl. I was a seeker, chasing light through the cracks of a lie. Chloe caught me reading, her nod firm. Keep going, she said. I would, for her, for us, even if the ground beneath me trembled with what I might find. Then, a clue sharpened the haze. Among Eleanor's papers, I found a letter. Half finished, her handwriting delicate as spider silk. It mentioned Harmony Haven, a children's center, and a name, Victor Stone. She'd written, I suspect Richard knows. My pulse quickened. This was no coincidence. I told David, who frowned, recalling Victor as a friend of Richard's. We visited the center, its walls peeling, air heavy with neglect. Children's drawings hung crooked. Their colors faded, like dreams left to wilt. A worker, eyes darting, avoided my questions about past records. Outside, I noticed a rose bush, its scent mingling with cigarette smoke, Richard's mark. Grandma's warnings echoed, her voice a steady current. I dug deeper, finding a receipt in David's files, linking Richard to payments for services at Harmony Haven. It wasn't proof, but it was a thread, glinting in the dark. Chloe, listening, gasped, he hid you there. The idea stung, yet fit, like a key turning in a rusted lock. I felt exposed, but the truth was closer. A river breaking through stone. Lily hugged me, her silence fierce. I wouldn't stop. Each step carved my place, not as a shadow, but as a sister, bound to them, to justice. No matter how jagged the path ahead, I made my choice beneath the stars, their light piercing the night like truths too long buried. I wouldn't let Richard's lies define me. I'll find the truth. I vowed, my voice steady, a seed-splitting stone. I told David I'd fight, not just for me, but for Chloe, Lily, and Eleanor's memory. His eyes softened, but worry lingered, like clouds veiling the moon. I wrote in my notebook, listing every clue, Eleanor's letter, The center, Richard's scent, declaring war on the deception that stole me. Chloe read it, her smile a spark. "We're with you," she said. Lily nodded, her hand in mine, a root anchoring me. I knew this path risked everything: David's trust, our safety, but silence was a heavier cost. Grandma's courage flowed in me, her love a wind at my back. I'd confront the past, not as a child, but as a force, unyielding as a tree against frost. The garden's roses swayed, witnesses to my resolve. I asked myself, if I stayed quiet, what would I lose? My sisters, my name, myself? No more. I'd unravel Richard's web, thread by thread, even if it meant facing him. His venom, his power. The night hummed, alive with purpose, and I felt it. My heart, no longer trembling, but beating like a drum, calling me to claim the place I'd been denied. I couldn't wait for truth to find me. I had to chase it, reckless as a river carving stone. Heart pounding, I slipped into David's study at midnight, the house hushed, and took Eleanor's letter about Harmony Haven. I'd go there myself, confront Victor Stone, Richard's ally. The center was a day's journey. Its address scrawled in my notebook like a map to buried roots. I left a note for Chloe and Lily, promising I'd return, and crept out, the night cool, stars sharp as truths. At dawn, I reached Harmony Haven, its sagging roof and peeling paint a mask for secrets. Victor's office was dim, his eyes narrowing when I demanded records of my past. "You're mistaken," he snapped. But his hand shook, betraying him. I pressed, voice steady, asking about Eleanor, about me. A file slipped from his desk, my name, a faded photo, proof I'd been there, hidden. I grabbed it, heart racing, and ran, his shouts trailing like wine through dry grass. The document burned in my hands, a piece of my stolen life. I felt alive, daring, as if I'd plucked a star from the sky. But Victor's glare lingered, a warning of storms ahead. I hid the file in my bag, Grandma's locket warm against my chest, urging courage. I'd faced him, a man tied to Richard's lies. And want something real. The road back stretched long, but I walked taller, a seedling breaking through frost, knowing I'd stirred a nest of vipers. Chloe's smile waited at home, and I'd share this victory, small but fierce, with her, with Lily, for us. The file was a spark, but trouble followed, swift as a hawk's shadow. David read the document, his face pale, confirming I'd been at Harmony Haven, erased from records by Richard's hand. It named Eleanor's trust, tied to our number, 3 years undid its wealth. Chloe hugged me, calling me brave. But Victor struck back. A letter arrived, accusing me of theft, threatening legal action. David's phone buzzed with calls, Richard's allies, their voices cold, warning of ruin if I didn't retract. The house felt smaller, its walls pressing in, as if truth were a guest no one wanted. Lily whispered, "We're still here," her hand steadying mine, but fear gnawed, sharp as thorns. I'd gained proof, yet lost safety. Victor's threat loomed, backed by Richard's power. Outside, the garden's roses drooped, heavy with dew, mirroring my heart. Had I pushed too far, risking my sister's peace? The file sat heavy, a treasure and a chain. David vowed to fight, but his eyes held worry, like clouds before rain. I felt the weight of my choice, yet also its fire, a step toward justice. Though the path grew jagged, Grandma's voice echoed, urging me to hold fast, like a tree against gales. I'd won a piece of truth, but the cost was rising. And I wondered if courage could outlast the storm Richard was brewing, its winds already rattling our fragile roots. I stood by the window, stars glinting like promises, and chose my path. I wouldn't shrink back, not now, not ever. "I'll keep fighting," I whispered, the words carving space in the dark. I told David I'd face Victor's threats, Richard's lies, for Eleanor, for Grandma. For us. He nodded, pride mixing with fear, like sunlight through branches. Chloe and Lily sat close, their belief a warmth no threat could dim. I wrote in my notebook, vowing to never be the silent girl again, the one who faded into shadows. That Maya was gone, burned away by truth's flame. I looked in the mirror, seeing not just a triplet, but a force, unyielding as a river's current. Grandma's locket gleamed, her love a steady pulse. I'd been reckless, yes, but right, and that truth rooted me. Richard could threaten, Victor could scheme. But I'd grow through their cracks like a weed claiming stone. The night outside sang, alive with possibility, and I felt it. My heart, no longer a frightened bird, but a drum, beating for justice. I asked myself, if I stopped, who would I be? A shadow, not a sister. No more. I'd carry this fight, for Chloe's laughter, Lily's quiet strength, and the mother I'd never know. Until the lies crumbled, and our family stood whole, bathed in the light of a dawn we'd earned. The truth broke free at a crowded gala, where David's company, a beacon of innovation, faced its annual spotlight. I stepped into the grand hall, heart pounding, my sisters at my side, their hands steadying me like roots in loose soil. Richard stood tall, silver hair gleaming, charming the crowd, but I saw the snake beneath. David had found more, Eleanor's hidden notes, tucked in a locked drawer, detailing Richard's payments to Harmony Haven to erase me. I held copies, their weight like stones smoothed by a river's flow. As Richard spoke of family legacy, I walked forward, the room's eyes turning, heavy as dusk. He's lying, I said, voice clear, cutting through the murmurs. I held up the notes, reading Eleanor's words, her suspicions of Richard's greed, her fear for me. Gasps rippled, faces shifting from doubt to shock. Chloe squeezed my arm. Lily's not a quiet fire. Richard's smile faltered, a crack in his mask, as I named Victor Stone, the sinner, the forged records. The crowd stirred, restless as leaves before a storm. I felt exposed, yet fierce, like a seedling piercing frost. David stepped beside me, his voice firm, backing my truth. The gala, meant to crown Richard's rise, became his unmasking, each word a pebble in the stream, redirecting its course. Outside, the night hummed, stars witnessing our stand. I'd feared this moment, but now, bathed in the crowd's gaze, I stood taller, not as a shadow, but as Maya, a daughter. A sister, claiming her place in a family fractured but fighting to heal. Richard's mask shattered as evidence mounted. David revealed a recording, slipped to him by Dr. Evelyn Reed, a doctor who delivered us. Her voice trembled, confessing Richard paid her to falsify my birth record, to hide me to secure the trust. She spoke of Eleanor's death, not natural but induced. A drug overdose orchestrated by Richard's hand. The crowd froze, the air thick as fog over a still lake. I held up the Harmony Haven file, its photo of me, a child discarded. Proof of Richard's scheme. Victor Stone, present, blanched, his denials weak, crumbling like dry clay. Chloe whispered, "We've got him," her voice a spark. Lily's eyes burned, fierce with pride. The gala's light seemed to dim, focusing on Richard, his charm dissolving like mist under sun. Whispers grew to murmurs, then accusations, as guests pieced together his betrayal. Eleanor's notes, the recording, my file, they wove a net, tight and unyielding. Richard stammered, his silver hair no longer regal but stark, a warning of his fall. I felt the weight lift, not fully, but enough. Like a river clearing after rain. The truth, once buried, now stood bare, sharp as a blade forged in fire. I'd feared being unseen, but now I was the voice, the proof. The daughter Richard couldn't erase. The garden outside waited, its roses nodding, as if Eleanor watched, her love a breeze guiding us through the storm he'd sown. The room shifted, like earth settling after a quake. Guests who doubted me now met my gaze, their eyes soft, some glistening with shame. A woman approached, her voice low, saying, "I believe you." Others followed, their nods like ripples spreading across a pond. The silence that once judged me turned warm, a chorus of quiet support. David spoke, vowing justice, and applause broke, tentative at first, then strong, like wind through tall grass. Chloe hugged me, Lily's smile a beacon. Richard stood alone, his allies slipping away, shadows fleeing light. I felt it, a tide turning, not just for me, but for us, a family stitched by truth. The gala, once a stage, now honored Eleanor's memory, her daughter's courage. I asked myself, had anyone seen me, truly, before this? Now they did. And it was enough. The stars outside gleamed, no longer cold, but kind, like lanterns on a path. I wasn't just Maya, the hidden triplet. I was a force, shaped by Grandma's love, Eleanor's sacrifice. The crowd's belief rooted me, not in their approval, but in my own worth, hard won, like a tree standing through seasons of frost. Richard's fall wasn't my victory. My voice was, my sister's beside me. Our bond unbroken, growing, a forest rising from ashes. The gala's applause faded, but peace didn't follow. I sat alone in my room, the locket cold in my palm, and doubt crept in, heavy as fog over a still river. Had I broken more than I'd built? Richard's fall exposed him, but it fractured David's world. His company teetered. Headlines screamed scandal. Chloe and Lily stood by me, yet I wondered, did my truth cost them too much? I'd wanted justice, not chaos, but the line blurred like rain smudging ink. Grandma's voice haunted me. Her warnings about truth's weight now clear. I questioned my place. Was I a sister or a storm, tearing roots from soil? Eleanor's notes, my proof, felt like burdens, not victories. I saw David's tired eyes, felt the crowd's gaze, and wondered if I'd been selfish, a child demanding light while others burned. The stars outside dimmed, clouded, mirroring my heart. I wasn't the hero I'd hoped. I was Maya, 7 and faltering, carrying a truth too big for my hands. Had I honored Grandma or betrayed her by stirring this pain? The garden's roses, once allies, seemed to wilt, accusing. I wanted to hide, to be the invisible girl again, safe in shadows. But that girl was gone, and this one, raw and aching, had to face the wreckage. I asked myself, was I right to speak, or had I shattered a family for a truth that couldn't heal? The night offered no answers, only silence, deep as earth, urging me to dig within, to find if I could stand by what I'd done. Fear clawed deeper, not of Richard, but of myself. In the dark, I saw my past, Grandma's porch, her warm hands, the only home I'd known. Had I been enough for her? For Chloe, Lily, David? The thought choked me. What if no one truly needed me? I was the hidden triplet, a secret meant to stay buried. Richard's words at the gala, street rat, cut fresh, their venom seeping into old wounds. I remembered nights alone, after Grandma's death, when I curled up, invisible, unwanted. Was that who I still was, beneath the courage? My dreams replayed Eleanor's face, imagined from photos, her eyes kind but distant, as if I'd failed her too. Panic rose, a tide drowning my resolve. I gripped the locket, its edges sharp, and wept, the sound raw, like wind through broken branches. I feared I'd fought for nothing, that my place in this family was a lie, fragile as frost. The house creaked, its warmth a faint echo, and I felt alone, a seed cast on barren ground. I asked myself, had anyone ever needed me, or was I chasing a love that didn't exist? The question burned, stripping me bare, but in its fire, I saw truth. Fear was my shadow, not myself. I had to face it, not flee, even if it meant standing naked before my own heart. Morning brought clarity. Faint but sure, like dawn-piercing mist. I wiped my tears, the locket warm again, and chose to stand. I wasn't perfect, flawed, frightened, but alive, shaped by pain, not owned by it. I am enough. I whispered, the words a seed taking root. I'd hurt David's world, yes, but silence would have hurt more, letting Richard's lies fester. Chloe's laugh, Lily's quiet strength, they needed me. As I needed them, Grandma's love, Eleanor's sacrifice, lived in me, not as burdens, but as light, guiding me forward. I forgave my doubts, my stumbles, knowing they'd forged me. Like rivers carving stone, I'd fight on, not for approval, but for truth, for the family we could be. The garden outside bloomed, roses lifting towards sun, and I saw my path, not smooth, but mine. I asked myself, could I live for others' comfort, or for my own truth? The answer was clear, steady as a heartbeat. I'd walk this road, scars and all, a girl who'd learned to love herself. Not as a shadow, but as a flame, burning bright, unyielding, for those I held dear and the justice we deserved. The gala's truth rippled outward, splitting the world like a stone through a still pond. Some called me brave, a child who'd unmasked a monster. Their letters arrived, scribbled with thanks, their words soft as petals. Others sneered, labeling me a liar. A nobody-stirring scandal for fame. News headlines clashed, some praised David's stand, others painted us as a fractured family tearing itself apart. Online, voices raged, their accusations sharp as thorns, claiming I'd forged Eleanor's notes, that I was no triplet, but a schemer. The garden outside felt distant, its roses muted under a gray sky. As if nature mourned the chaos I'd sown. I read each attack, my heart sinking, wondering if I'd misjudged truth's cost. David shielded us, but his company faltered, stocks dipping. Whispers of ruin growing loud. Chloe and Lily stayed close, their faith a warm hearth, yet I felt the world's eyes, judging, dividing. Some neighbors turned away, their glances cold, as if I'd tainted their quiet streets. I asked myself, had I spoken for justice, or had I invited this storm, uprooting the fragile peace we'd built? The stars above flickered, half hidden by clouds, offering no clarity. I clutched Grandma's locket, its weight a reminder of her courage, but also her warning. Truth could break as much as it healed. The public's split voice echoed my own doubts. Yet I couldn't unspeak what I'd said. I was Maya, not a hero or a villain, but a girl caught in a tide, struggling to hold ground as the world's judgment crashed like waves, threatening to erode the roots I'd fought to plant. Richard struck back, his venom swift and precise, like a hawk diving for prey. He hired lawyers, their suits crisp, their words polished, filing claims against David for slander, demanding I retract my lies. News outlets, swayed by his wealth, ran stories painting him as a victim, me as a troubled orphan twisting grief into conspiracy. Victor Stone, free on bail, fueled the fire, accusing David of exploiting children, his lies thick as smog. Anonymous threats arrived, letters slipped under our door, their words jagged, promising I'd pay for speaking. One night, a rock shattered our window, glass scattering like fallen stars. Chloe gasped. Lily's hand found mine, but fear coiled tight, a vine choking my resolve. Richard's allies spread rumors, claiming Eleanor's death was her own fault, not his crime. Each attack chipped at my courage, like wind wearing down stone. David fought back, his voice steady, but I saw the strain, his eyes heavy as wet earth. The house, once a haven, felt like a fortress under siege, its walls no shield against the world's wrath. I wondered if I'd been naive, thinking truth would set us free. Had I dragged my sisters into a war we couldn't win? The garden's roses drooped, their scent faint, as if they too felt the weight. Grandma's locket burned against my skin, urging me to stand, but Richard's counterblows were relentless, each one a reminder of his power, pushing me toward a ledge where doubt and despair waited, hungry. The world's fury isolated me, a tree stripped bare by winter's bite. David's allies dwindled, some fearing Richard's influence, others swayed by lies. Friends who'd clapped at the gala now hesitated, their calls rare, their visits rare. The house grew quiet, its warmth fading, as if truth had drained its life. Chloe and Lily stayed fierce, their laughter my only light. But even they felt the strain, schoolmates whispered, teachers watched us warily. I stopped reading the news, its venom too heavy, like mud clogging a stream. Nights were hardest, the silence loud, my doubts louder. Had I been wrong to fight? Richard's threats loomed, his wealth a shadow swallowing hope. I felt cornered, a seed buried too deep to sprout. The garden outside stood still, its roses closed, as if holding their breath. I asked myself, could I keep going, or was surrender easier? Letting Richard win to spare my sisters more pain? Grandma's voice, faint but firm, whispered no. Giving up betrayed her, Eleanor, us. Yet the cost pressed hard, my heart fraying like worn cloth. I was alone, not in body, but in spirit, a girl who dared to speak, now facing a world that might never listen. The stars hid behind clouds, and I wondered if I had the strength to stand again, or if this fight would break me, leaving only echoes of the courage I'd once claimed. In my darkest hour, a hand reached out, steady as an oak in a storm. Dr. Evelyn Reed, the doctor who'd confessed Richard's bribe, found me in the garden, her eyes kind, weathered by guilt. I believe you, Maya, she said, her voice soft as rain on leaves. She'd been silent too long, haunted by Eleanor's death, my hidden birth. Her words were a lifeline, pulling me from doubt's mire. I'd felt alone, a seed in barren soil. But Evelyn's courage, risking her name to stand with me, lit a spark. She shared documents proving Richard's payments to erase me, to silence her. Chloe, overhearing, hugged me, her joy a warm breeze. Lily's nod was fierce, a silent vow. Evelyn wasn't just an ally. She was proof truth could draw others, even those once complicit. I asked why she'd come now. She spoke of sleepless nights, my face, so like Eleanor's, haunting her. The roses swayed, their scent clean, free of Richard's taint, as if nature blessed our pact. I felt a shift, like a river finding its course. I wasn't fighting alone but for those, like Evelyn, who'd carried shame too long. The stars gleamed, no longer distant, like lanterns guiding us. I clutched Grandma's locket, its warmth a pulse, knowing I wasn't alone. Evelyn's stand was a root, anchoring me to face Richard's gale, with my sisters and a witness who saw me, truly, as Maya, not a shadow, but a daughter reclaiming her place in a fractured family. Evelyn's courage kindled a bond, a fire we'd tend together. We met in secret, her home a haven of old books and soft light, where we pored over her documents, ledgers, emails, proof of Richard's grip on Harmony Haven. Chloe joined us, her questions sharp. Lily sketched plans, her focus a steady current. We were a team, small but fierce, like saplings against wind. Evelyn shared Eleanor's stories, her laughter, her love, stitching me to a mother I'd never known. Trust grew, fragile but real, like moss on stone. We dug deeper, finding names, center workers, others Richard paid. I wrote letters, hand steady, asking them to speak. Some replied, hesitant but honest, victims of Richard's threats. Now ready to stand. David, informed, brought legal aid, his faith a quiet strength. We planned to confront Victor Stone's lies, to expose the center's neglect. Each step bound us closer. Our shared purpose a weave, strong as ivy. I felt Eleanor's presence, her love a breeze through our work. The garden's roses bloomed, their petals bold, mirroring our resolve. I asked myself, could one voice spark a chorus? With Evelyn, my sisters, and these new voices, I believed it could. Our coalition, though small, was a spark, ready to ignite truth's flame. Unyielding as a forest standing through frost, growing toward justice we'd claim together. Our spark caught, spreading like wildfire through dry grass. Others came forward, former Harmony Haven children, their stories raw, echoing mine. Grace and Ethan, two I'd met through David's rescue, shared tales of neglect, their voices trembling but sure. Online, people posted, naming Richard's cruelty, their words a tide rising. Hashtags bloomed, calls for justice echoing, each post a leaf in a growing canopy. A reporter, moved by our stand, wrote truth, shifting headlines from scandal to courage. Crowds gathered outside David's company, not to protest, but to support, their signs bright as spring blooms. I read their messages. Heart swelling, like a river fed by rain. Chloe cried, Lily smiled, and I felt it. Our fight wasn't mine alone but a chorus, loud as wind through pines. Evelyn's evidence, our stories, wove a net, catching public trust. The garden's roses stood taller, as if Eleanor watched, proud. I asked myself, had I ever dreamed of such strength? No, but I'd found it, not in me alone, but in us, survivors. Sisters, allies, a community rising like dawn. Richard's shadow shrank, his lies exposed by light we'd kindled. I wasn't just Maya. I was part of a wave, unstoppable, carrying Grandma's love. Eleanor's truth, toward a justice that would bloom, eternal as stars, for all who'd been silenced. Richard's final strike came like a storm breaking over calm seas. Desperate, he unleashed a barrage, his wealth fueling a smear campaign fiercer than before. News channels, swayed by his allies, aired old photos of me, dirty, alone at the roadside stop, calling me a fraud, a child twisted by greed. He dragged Grandma's name through mud, claiming she'd lied for pity, hiding me for profit. Online, his bots swarmed, their lies sharp as nettles, accusing David of orchestrating a coup against his own brother. Victor Stone, still free, held a press conference, his voice oily, alleging I'd forged Eleanor's notes, that I was no triplet but an imposter. Crowds outside our home grew hostile, their shouts a gale rattling windows. A letter arrived, Richard's words cold, retract or lose everything. Chloe, Lily, David's legacy. The garden's roses wilted, their petals falling like tears, as if Eleanor mourned the venom. I felt the weight, heavy as wet earth, wondering if truth could withstand this flood. Chloe's eyes, usually bright, dimmed. Lily's hands trembled. David's company teetered, lawsuits piling like stones. Richard's attack wasn't just on me but on our bond, aiming to snap it like a brittle branch. The stars hid behind clouds, their silence a challenge. I clutched Grandma's locket, its pulse faint, and asked myself, could I face this? Or had Richard's power finally outmatched our light? The night pressed close, but I sensed it. This was his last stand, a beast cornered, lashing out. I'd meet him, not with fear, but with the strength of roots deep in soil, unbroken by a storm. The confrontation came at a warehouse, the same where Richard had trapped us months before, now a stage for truth's reckoning. David planned it, a trap to draw Richard's confession, a recorder hidden in my pocket. We faced him, my sisters beside me, their courage a warm current. Richard sneered, his silver hair stark under dim lights, scent of roses and smoke thick. You'll never win, he spat, but his eyes darted, betraying fear. I spoke, voice steady, naming his crimes, Eleanor's murder, Grandma's death, my erasure. He laughed, then ranted, admitting it all, the drugs, the bribes, the trust he'd killed to keep. The recorder caught every word, a net tightening. David stepped forward, his gaze steel, demanding surrender. Richard lunged, but agents, waiting in shadows, seized him, their cuffs clicking like rain on leaves. Chloe gasped, Lily squeezed my hand, and I felt it, freedom, sharp as dawn's first light. The warehouse, once a tomb, now cradled our victory, its walls echoing Richard's fall. Outside, the night opened, stars bright, as if Eleanor and Grandma watched. Their love a breeze lifting us. I asked myself, had I ever felt so whole? Yes, here, with my sisters, truth laid bare. Richard's venom was spent, his power dust, and I stood, not just a girl, but a force forged in fire, unyielding as a river carving stone. Truth won, a sunrise after endless night. Richard's recorded confession aired, his voice stamming, stripping his lies bare. News shifted, once venomous, now hailing our courage. David stand, my voice. Crowds gathered, not in anger but awe, their applause soft as petals falling. Victor Stone, exposed, fled. His center shut, children like Grace and Ethan freed. David's company steadied, its light restored. Chloe laughed, Lily smiled, and I felt our bond, unbreakable, like roots entwined. The garden bloomed, roses lifting to sun, Eleanor's spirit in every petal. Richard faced trial, his empire crumbling, justice a tide no wealth could stem. I stood with my sisters, the locket warm, and knew this was our victory, not over him, but for us, for Grandma, for truth. The stars shone, a canopy of hope, and I asked myself, what had I won? Not fame, but family, not vengeance, but peace. I was Maya, seen, loved, no longer hidden, a girl who'd faced a storm and found her place, strong as a tree through seasons, eternal as light. The world listened, and I spoke, not for them, but for us, for the silenced, for the dawn we'd fought to see, now breaking, warm and sure, over a horizon we'd claimed. Victory should have felt light, like sunlight through leaves. But it carried shadows. Richard's confession freed us, yet the cost was heavy, like stones in a riverbed. David's company survived, but scars remained. Lawsuits drained funds, allies drifted, wary of our name. Neighbors whispered, their trust thin, as if our truth tainted us. Chloe and Lily stayed close, their love fierce, but I saw their weariness, the weight of a childhood disrupted. I'd won justice, but lost the quiet we once dreamed of, a family untouched by scandal. Grandma's locket warmed my palm, yet her warnings echoed, truth could break as much as it built. I walked the garden, roses fading with season's end, and felt Eleanor's absence, a mother whose love I'd never hold. Had I honored her, or stirred pain she'd wished to spare? The world praised me, but their voices felt distant, like wind over a far hill. I'd exposed Richard, but shattered David's peace, perhaps my sister's too. Each headline, each stranger's nod, reminded me of what we'd paid, privacy, safety, a simpler life. I asked myself, was truth worth this fracture, this ache in our roots? The stars above, half-veiled, offered no answer. Only a quiet challenge to carry the weight. I wasn't the hero I'd hoped, but Maya, a girl who'd dared, now learning victory's price. The night pressed close, its silence deep as earth, urging me to face what I'd lost, not to mourn, but to understand, to find meaning in the cracks left behind, where new growth might yet emerge. I faced the consequences, not as punishment, but as part of my path, like a tree bearing winter's frost. I chose solitude, stepping back from crowds, their praise too loud for my raw heart. I stopped reading letters, their words heavy, and let the house's silence wrap me, a cocoon for healing. David understood, his eyes kind, though strained. Chloe and Lily protested, but I needed this space, like a seed needing dark to sprout. I walked alone, the garden my refuge, its bare branches honest in their bareness. I'd lost trust, neighbors, friends, even parts of myself, but gained clarity, sharp as dawn. I didn't need their approval, only my own, hard-won through fire. Grandma's locket stayed close, its pulse steady, reminding me of her strength, her love that asked no reward. I let go of guilt. Not because I'd done no harm, but because I'd done right, even if it scarred. The world moved on, its noise fading, and I learned to stand, not as a triplet or a victim, but as Maya, whole in my aloneness. I asked myself, could I live for others' comfort or for my truth? The answer rooted me, firm as stone. I'd bear this loss, not as defeat, but as growth. A season of stripping away to reveal what endured, what could bloom anew in time's gentle light. I began rebuilding, not from scratch, but from what remained, like a forest after fire. I wrote in my notebook, not of Richard or lies, but of Chloe's laugh, Lily's quiet courage, Eleanor's imagined embrace. I sketched the garden, its roses dormant but alive, teaching me patience. I learned small things, how to braid Lily's hair, cook Grandma's biscuits, each act a thread, weaving me into family. I didn't chase the old Maya, the invisible girl, nor the hero others saw. I sought this Maya, flawed but growing, like a sapling reaching for sun. David gave me Eleanor's journal, its pages soft, her words a bridge to a mother who'd loved me. I read, tears falling, and felt her near, her strength mine. The locket gleamed, no longer a weight, but a light, guiding me forward. I asked myself, who was I, beyond the fight? A sister, a daughter. A girl who'd learned to love herself, not for what she'd done, but for who she was. The garden stirred, a breeze lifting bare branches, promising spring. I chose to continue, not to erase the past, but to build on it, a life not perfect, but true, rooted in love, steady as stars, eternal as the earth that held me, whispering of hope yet to bloom. In the quiet after the storm, Grace, a girl David rescued from Harmony Haven, saw me, truly, like sunlight piercing fog. We sat in the garden, her small hands tracing rose stems, her eyes, once dull with fear, now bright. She didn't ask about Richard or the gala. She just shared her story, nights alone, dreaming of a family. You gave me that, she said, her voice soft as a breeze through grass. Her trust, unearned yet freely given, shifted my heart, like a river finding new paths. I'd been Maya, the fighter, the hidden triplet, but to Grace, I was enough, just me. She handed me a drawing. 3 sisters under stars, and I saw myself through her eyes, not a hero, but a sister, a light. Chloe joined us, laughing, Lily sketching nearby, and I felt our bond, warm as earth after rain. Grace's faith mirrored Grandma's love, Eleanor's sacrifice, showing me I didn't need to prove my worth. The roses around us bloomed, their petals bold, as if nodding approval. I clutched the locket, its pulse steady, and realized I'd been running, even in victory, from myself. Grace's gift was clarity. I was seen, not for what I'd done, but for who I was. The stars above twinkled, close, like friends, and I asked myself, had anyone ever known me so simply, so purely? Yes, here, in this moment, where a child's trust taught me to rest, to root myself in love, not struggle, and to grow. Like a tree, steady in its own time. Forgiveness came slowly, a tide receding from a battered shore. I sat alone, the locket open, Grandma's photo gazing back, and let go of my anger, not for Richard, but for me, for the girl who'd blamed herself for being hidden. I'd carried guilt, sharp as thorns, for stirring pain, for surviving when Grandma didn't. I'm sorry, I whispered, tears falling. Not for my fight, but for doubting my worth. I forgave David's silences, his struggle to hold us whole, Chloe's impatience, Lily's quiet fears. They were human, like me. Even Evelyn, who'd stayed silent too long, I released, her courage now a bridge between us. Richard I couldn't forgive, not yet, but I let go of his hold, his venom no longer mine to carry. I wrote a letter, not to send, but to free, words of pain, then peace, burned in the garden's soil, their ash mingling with earth. The roses watched, their scent clean, as if Eleanor approved. I cried, not from sorrow, but release, like rain washing dust from leaves. I asked myself, why hold hate when love was heavier, truer? The stars shone, a canopy of grace, and I felt lighter, unburdened. A sea breaking free of hard earth. Forgiveness wasn't for them, but for me, a path to peace, rooted in Grandma's love, growing toward a dawn I'd chosen, clear and unbound. Healing took form in the garden, where I planted a rose bush, its roots deep, like promises kept. It was Grandma's, once wilting on her porch, now thriving under my care. Each bud, small but stubborn, mirrored my heart, scarred but alive. I tended it daily, hands in soil, feeling Eleanor's presence, her love a warmth through time. Chloe helped, her chatter bright. Lily left sketches by its base, tributes to our bond. The bush bloomed, red as dawn, a symbol of us, three sisters, not perfect, but growing. I touched its petals, soft as hope, and felt the past settle, not gone, but woven into now. The locket rested against my chest, no longer heavy, but light, a star grounded in earth. I asked myself, could pain become beauty, like this rose from struggle? Yes, it had, in me and us. In this act of care, the garden hummed, alive with bees, breeze, life, and I saw it, my healing, not in erasing wounds, but in nurturing what endured. The stars above glowed, eternal, and I stood, not as the hidden girl, but as Maya, whole, tending a legacy of love, not loss, a rosebush that would bloom, season after season, for Grandma, for Eleanor, for the family we become, rooted, resilient, forever reaching for light. Life after the storm settled into a rhythm, gentle as a stream finding its bed. Each morning, I rose early, brewing tea in David's quiet kitchen, the steam curling like mist over dawn fields. I'd walk the garden, now my sanctuary, where the rosebush thrived, its blooms a quiet triumph. The house, once a fortress, felt like home, its walls warm with Chloe's chatter, Lily's sketches pinned to every corner. David smiled more, his eyes lighter, as if truth had lifted a long-carried weight. I found joy in small acts, braiding Lily's hair, reading Eleanor's journal, its pages soft with her love. The world outside still buzzed, but I kept it at arm's length, choosing peace over noise. My days were simple, grounded, like roots sinking deeper into earth. I'd sit by the window, watching clouds drift, and feel Grandma's presence, her locket warm against my chest. The scars remained, whispers from neighbors, the ache of loss, but they no longer ruled me. I asked myself, could life be this steady, this kind, after such chaos? Yes, it was, not perfect, but real. A tapestry of quiet moments woven with love. The stars above, clear each night, seemed to nod, their light a promise of endurance. I wasn't running anymore, not from pain or fear. I was living fully. As Maya, a sister, a daughter, no longer hidden. The garden's roses swayed, their scent clean, and I knew this life, built from struggle, was mine, a haven shaped by truth, blooming softly. Like dawn breaking over a world I'd learned to call home. I turned my pain into purpose, a light for others lost in shadows. With David, I helped start Eleanor's Legacy Foundation, a haven for forgotten children like Grace and Ethan. We built Grandma Sarah's sanctuary, too, honoring her love for those who cared without reward. I spoke to kids at the centers, sharing my story, not the headlines, but the truth. I'd been invisible, like them, yet found my place. Their eyes, wide with hope, mirrored mine years ago, and I felt Eleanor's spirit, her love a breeze through our work. Chloe joined me, her laughter lifting spirits. Lily drew murals, brightening bare walls. Each child's smile was a victory, a root taking hold. I volunteered nights, reading stories, teaching trust through small acts, like Grandma had. The garden's roses bloomed bolder, as if cheering our efforts. I asked myself, could my scars help others heal? Yes, they could. Turning loss into love, like rain feeding parched earth. The stars shone, eternal, and I saw it. My fight wasn't just mine but theirs, a chain of hands lifting each other. I wasn't saving them. They saved me, their courage a mirror, showing me strength I'd earned. The sinners grew, voices rising, and I knew this was my calling, not to dwell in pain, but to build, to nurture, to grow a legacy of care, as enduring as the earth, for those who needed it most. I shared our story, not for praise, but to spark hope, a fire to warm the weary. I posted online, my voice steady, telling of Grandma's love, Eleanor's sacrifice, our fight through Richard's lies. Videos spread, comments flooding, strangers sharing their own battles, their words a chorus. Like wind through a forest. I spoke at the foundation, kids like Grace beside me, their stories weaving with mine, a tapestry of resilience. People listened, not to a hero, but to a girl who'd stood. Fallen, stood again. Chloe filmed us, Lily's art in every frame, our bond a beacon. The garden's roses framed my words, their blooms a silent vow. I asked myself, could my voice reach those still silent? Yes, it did. Each view a hand extended, each share a light kindled. The stars above burned bright, and I felt it, a community, not of followers, but of survivors, connected by truth. I urged others to speak, to claim their stories, not for fame, but for freedom. Our fight became theirs, a wave lifting all who'd been unseen. I was Maya, not alone, but part of a vast, living root, growing through stone, eternal as hope, calling others to rise, to bloom, to find their dawn. I returned to the roadside stop where David found me. Its weathered bench unchanged, a relic of my past pain. The air held Grandma's scent, dust and wildflowers, stirring memories of nights I'd curled up, invisible, alone. Once this place was a cage, its silence mocking my worth. Now, I stood, no longer trembling, the locket warm against my chest. The horizon stretched wide, a canvas of soft clouds, and I saw it through new eyes, not as a trap, but a beginning where loss had led to love. I touched the bench, its wood rough, and felt Grandma's hand in mine, her stories alive in me. The pain lingered, a faint ache, like roots deep in earth, but it no longer owned me. I whispered thanks, not for the hurt, but for the strength it forged, steady as a river carving stone. Chloe and Lily waited nearby, their presence a quiet anchor. And I knew this visit wasn't to dwell, but to reclaim. The wildflowers nodded, their colors bold, as if Eleanor watched, proud. I asked myself, could I stand where I'd fallen and not flinch? Yes, I could, as Maya, not the hidden girl, but a sister, whole, rooted in love. The stars began to gleam, faint in the dusk, and I felt the past settle, not erased, but woven into now. A thread in a tapestry of healing. This place, once my wound, was now a marker, a stone in my path, guiding me forward toward a dawn I'd earned, bright with the promise of family. I sought Evelyn Reed, not to accuse, but to close a circle, like a vine curling toward light. We met at her home, her eyes softer now, guilt tempered by truth. I spoke of my years unseen. The locket my only tie to love, and her silence, which had let Richard's lies grow. I needed you, I said, voice steady, not sharp, a stream flowing clear. She nodded, tears falling, and shared her own pain. Fear of Richard, shame for her part. I failed you, Maya, she said, her words raw, like earth turned fresh. I didn't seek apologies, only understanding, and found it in her gaze, open, no longer evading. We talked of Eleanor, her warmth, and I felt her near, a breeze through the room. Evelyn's courage, late but real, had helped free me. And I told her so, my heart light, unburdened. The roses outside her window swayed, their scent clean, a nod to our peace. I asked myself, could I face her, not for blame, but for closure? Yes, I had. Not to erase pain, but to claim myself, whole, beyond it. The stars above twinkled, kind, and I left her, not as a victim, but as Maya, a girl who'd spoken truth, not for vengeance, but for freedom. A quiet step toward healing, strong as roots reaching deep, eternal as love. We both changed, Evelyn and I, like trees shaped by the same storm. She clasped my hand as I left, her grip firm. No words needed, only a nod, deep as a river's current. I saw her not as the doctor who'd faltered, but as a woman who'd risen, her courage a mirror to mine. I'd grown too. No longer the shadow fearing loss, but a sister, a daughter, standing tall, like a rosebush thriving through frost. Her eyes held no guilt now, only respect, and mine reflected the same. A silent pact. Chloe and Lily waited, their smiles bright, and I felt our bond, unbreakable, a forest of shared strength. The garden at home bloomed, its roses bold. As if Grandma and Eleanor blessed this moment. I asked myself, did we need words to heal, or just this quiet knowing? The nod was enough, a bridge built, not of forgiveness alone, but of growth. Mutual, enduring. The stars shone, a canopy of light, and I knew we'd both shed old skins, not perfect, but honest, like earth after rain. I was Maya, changed, and so was she. Two souls who'd faced truth's fire and emerged, not unscarred, but alive, rooted in a shared journey, blooming in a dawn we both helped rise, eternal as the love that held us. I stepped into the light, my voice trembling but sure, sharing our story on a stage at Eleanor's Legacy Foundation. The crowd was small, faces eager, kids like Grace clutching drawings. Their hope a spark. I spoke of Grandma's porch, Eleanor's love, the warehouse where truth saved us. My hand shook, clutching the locket, but Chloe's nod, Lily's smile, steadied me. I posted the talk online, my first video, raw and unpolished, like a seed breaking soil. Views climbed, comments poured, strangers moved, their own stories spilling. A river of shared pain and strength. I wasn't a hero, just Maya, a girl who'd fought, fallen, risen. The garden's roses framed my words, their blooms a quiet vow. I told of Richard's lies. Not for pity, but to show we could stand, as I had, with my sisters, with Evelyn's courage. Each word was a pebble, rippling outward, reaching those still silent. The stars above gleamed, eternal. And I felt it, my voice, once small, now loud, a call to others. I asked myself, could my truth touch hearts, spark change? Yes, it was, not for fame, but for connection, a bridge of stories. David watched, proud, as I spoke, not as a child, but as a force rooted in love. The crowd's applause, soft as rain, wasn't the goal. Their eyes, alight with possibility, were. I was Maya, sharing not just pain, but hope, a light for those in shadow, growing like a forest, strong, alive, eternal as the earth that held us, urging others to speak, to heal, to bloom. The ripple became a wave, changing more than I'd dreamed, like wind reshaping dunes. People shared my video, their posts a chorus, naming their own fights, against silence, betrayal, loss. A woman wrote, "Your voice gave me mine," her words a bloom in my heart. Schools invited me to speak, kids like Ethan listening, their dreams no longer buried. The foundation grew. It centers safe havens, murals by Lily brightening walls. News, once cruel, now called us changemakers, our story a beacon. I stood at a rally, Grace beside me, her small voice joining mine. Proof one spark could ignite many. Chloe filmed, her laughter weaving joy into truth. David's nod was steady, like roots in deep earth. The garden's roses stood tall, Eleanor's spirit in their petals, urging us on. I asked myself, could a girl's story shift the world? Yes, it had, not alone, but with others, a movement of voices, unyielding as rivers. I became a symbol, not of victory, but of resilience, showing no one was too small to rise. The stars burned bright, and I felt it. Our fight. Now there's a tapestry of courage, woven by hands once silent. I spoke for Grandma, for Eleanor, for us, inspiring not just hope, but action, a world where truth could bloom, eternal, like dawn breaking over a field of new green. Hope was my gift, offered freely, like seeds scattered on fertile ground. I ended each talk with a call, your story matters, tell it. People did, their words online, in letters, a chorus of light, each voice a star in a growing sky. I met a boy, once at Harmony Haven, now thriving, his smile proof of second chances. You showed me I could, he said, and I cried, not from pain, but joy, like rain feeding a parched earth. Chloe and Lily joined me, our bond a beacon, showing family could heal, grow, endure. The foundation became a home for stories, not just ours, but thousands, a forest of voices rising. I walked the garden, roses bold, and felt Grandma's love, Eleanor's strength, alive in me, in us, in them. I asked myself, could everyone find their dawn? Yes, they could, as I had, through pain. Truth, love. The stars above sang, eternal, and I knew my role, not to save, but to show, to be one light among many. I was Maya, a girl who'd stood, now calling others to stand, to speak, to bloom. Our story, shared, was a promise. No one was alone, no pain too deep to heal, no voice too small to matter, eternal as the earth, growing toward a light we'd all share. I stood in the garden, roses glowing under dawn's soft light, and felt no regret for the path I'd walked. If I could return to that roadside bench, to the warehouse's smoke, to Richard's venom, I'd choose it again. Every step, every scar. The pain had carved me, not into a victim, but a sister, a daughter, a voice. Grandma's locket rested warm against my chest, its pulse a steady vow. I'd faced fear, doubt, loss, yet found Chloe's laughter, Lily's quiet strength, David's steady love. The fight wasn't easy, headlines stung, solitude ached, but it was mine, honest, like a river cutting stone. I'd spoken truth, not for glory, but for us, for Eleanor, for those still hidden. The stars above, just fading, seemed to nod, their light a mirror to my resolve. I asked myself, would I trade this life, raw and real, for one untested? No, I wouldn't, because this Maya, forged in struggle, stood taller, rooted deeper than I'd ever dreamed. The garden's roses swayed, their scent clean, as if Grandma and Eleanor stood beside me, proud. I'd lost much, innocence, quiet, but gained more, a family, a purpose, a self I could love. Each choice, from the gala stand to the foundation's work, was a seed, now blooming, eternal as earth. I was Maya, not flawless, but whole, my heart a flame that no storm could douse. The dawn broke, golden. And I knew this path, jagged but true, was the only one I'd ever walk, its light my own, unyielding, forever growing toward hope. The pain itself became my teacher, a gift I learned to hold. Like rain nourishing roots, I sat by the rose bush, its blooms bold, and saw how each wound, Grandma's loss, Eleanor's absence, Richard's betrayal, had shaped me, not as broken, but as strong. Like a tree weathered, but standing. I was grateful, not for the hurt, but for what it taught, to love myself, to cherish Chloe's fire, Lily's calm, David's care. The locket gleamed. Its weight no burden, but a bridge to Grandma's courage, Eleanor's heart. I'd once cursed my loneliness, my hidden years, but now I saw them as soil, rich with lessons, growing me into Maya, unbowed. The garden hummed, alive with bees, breeze, life, and I felt it. Pain wasn't my enemy, but my forge, crafting resilience, love, truth. I asked myself, could I thank what broke me? Yes, I could. Because it built me, too, each scar a line in a story of triumph. The stars, now gone in daylight, lived in me, their light eternal. I loved this life, not despite its thorns, but because of them. Each one a mark of growth, a root sinking deep. The roses lifted to sun, and I knew my gratitude wasn't weakness, but power, a river flowing clear, carrying me toward a dawn I'd earned. Bright with love, steady as earth. One truth bound it all, a star to guide me home. I didn't defeat Richard, I said, voice clear, standing by the rosebush, its blooms a chorus. I stopped losing to myself. That was my victory, not his fall, but my rise, from a hidden girl to a woman who claimed her place. I spoke it to the garden, to Chloe, Lily, to the world online. My words a beacon, simple, true. The locket pulsed, Grandma's love, Eleanor's strength, alive in me, in us. I'd fought, not for vengeance, but for love, for truth, for those still voiceless. The stars would shine tonight, eternal, and I'd carry this truth, not as a weight, but a light, burning bright. I asked myself, what was my legacy? This, a heart that chose to stand, to love, to grow. Like a rose through stone. The garden glowed, dawn's light soft, and I saw it, my life, not a battle won, but a story lived, a seed become a tree, eternal as hope. I was Maya, no longer running, but rooted, my voice a call to others, to rise, to bloom. The earth held me, its pulse mine, and I spoke, not for the past, but for now, for tomorrow, for the light we'd all share. Forever breaking like dawn, I sat by the rosebush, locket open, and wrote to the Maya of old, the girl on Grandma's porch, trembling under stars. Dear you, I began, my pen steady. You thought you weren't enough, a shadow no one saw. I spoke to her nights of hunger, her fear of being forgotten, her heart curled tight like a fern in frost. I told her she was brave, even then, carrying Grandma's love through dark, like a seed holding life in winter. I wrote of Chloe's laughter, Lily's quiet strength, how they'd found her, claimed her as kin. You survived, I said. Not by chance, but by will, fierce as a river-cutting stone. The garden listened, its roses soft, their scent a nod to Eleanor's unseen care. I saw that girl, small but stubborn, and loved her. Not for what she'd become, but for who she was, alone yet enduring. Tears fell, not from sorrow, but pride, like rain feeding earth. I asked myself, could I hold that child, tell her she was whole? Yes, I could, because she'd carried me here to this moment, rooted in truth. The stars above gleamed, eternal, and I felt her in me, not gone, but woven, a thread in my heart. I was Maya, writing not to erase her, but to honor, to lift her from shadows and delight. The earth hummed, alive, and I knew this letter, though unsent, was a bridge connecting past to now. I vowed to never forget the girl who'd walked through night to find dawn. I looked at what I'd hated, my weakness, my fear, and saw their worth, like stones polished by a stream. I'd cursed my trembling hands in the warehouse, my silent years, thinking them flaws, scars to hide. Now, by the garden, roses bold, I understood. Those fears kept me alive, sharp, like thorns guarding a bloom. My weakness taught me to lean on Chloe's fire, Lily's calm, to trust David's steady hand. I'd loathed my loneliness, but it honed my heart, made me see Grace's pain, Ethan's hope. The locket warmed, Grandma's love a pulse, showing me even my doubts were roots, anchoring me through storms. I'd been soft, breakable, yet that softness let me bend, not snap. Like a sapling in wind. I asked myself, could I love what I'd shunned? Yes, I could, because those parts, raw, human, built me, not as perfect, but as real, a tapestry of light and shadow. The stars shone, kind, and I saw my fears as allies, not chains, each one a step toward courage. The garden's earth felt warm, alive, and I knew my weakness wasn't shame, but strength. A river's quiet power, shaping me, eternal as growth. I was Maya, not hiding scars, but wearing them, proud, like leaves catching sun, forever reaching for a dawn I'd claimed. I stood before the mirror, locket gleaming, and met my eyes, no longer flinching, like a tree facing dawn. I smiled, soft, and saw myself as scarred, strong, whole. A girl who'd walked through fire and bloomed. I love you, I whispered, the words new, raw, like rain on dry earth. I'd once dodged my reflection, fearing the hidden girl, the triplet no one wanted. Now, I saw her, and me, entwined, like roots deep in soil. I embraced my past, my fears, my fight, each piece a star in my sky. Chloe's laugh echoed, Lily's sketches filled my heart, and I felt them. Grandma, Eleanor, alive in me, their love eternal. The garden outside glowed, roses lifting, as if cheering my peace. I asked myself, could I hold all of me, shadow and light? Yes, I had. Because I was Maya, not just a sister, a daughter, but a self, forged in truth, unyielding as stone. The stars above burned, a canopy of grace, and I knew this embrace wasn't an end, but a beginning. A vow to live, fully, as me. The earth pulsed, warm, and I stood, no longer running, but rooted, my heart aflame, bright, eternal, carrying me toward a dawn where I was enough, always. Blooming like roses, forever in light. I wrote to Richard, not to send, but to free my heart, sitting by the rosebush, its bloom soft under dusk's glow. You hurt me, I began. Naming his crimes, Eleanor's death, Grandma's murder, my stolen years. Each word was a stone, heavy, sharp, carried too long. I listed the fear, the warehouse's smoke, the nights I felt worthless. His venom seeping into my roots. You wanted me gone, I wrote, a triplet erased for your greed. The locket warmed, Grandma's love steady, urging me to speak, not in hate, but truth. I saw his face. Silver hair stark, his smile a blade, yet felt no rage, only clarity, like a river running clear. I wrote of Chloe's courage, Lily's quiet strength, how they'd held me, unbroken by his lies. The garden's roses swayed, their scent clean, as if Eleanor listened, her spirit soft. I didn't wish him pain, though once I had, dreaming of his fall like leaves in a storm. Now I saw him small, a man chained by his own heart, not mine. I asked myself, could I name his wrongs without carrying them? Yes, I could, for me, for us, to stand unburdened. The stars emerged, kind, and I felt it. This letter, a bridge to peace, not his, but mine. I was Maya, not his victim, but a sister, whole, rooted in love, letting his shadow fade, like mist under dawn's light. Eternal as the earth that held me free. I let go of resentment, not for Richard, but for me, like a bird released from a cage. I stood by the rosebush, locket gleaming, and chose freedom over hate. A tide receding from a worn shore. I release you, I whispered, not to absolve him, but to unchain my heart. His lies, his cruelty, had bound me, their weight heavy as wet earth, but no more. I saw Grandma's smile, Eleanor's love in her journal, and knew they'd want me light, not tethered to his darkness. I forgave not his deeds, but their hold, letting anger dissolve. Like frost under sun, the garden hummed, roses bold, their petals a vow of peace. I asked myself, could I live free, unshadowed by his pain? Yes, I had, because I was Maya, not his creation, but my own, shaped by love, not loss. The stars shone, eternal, and I felt it, my heart, no longer a battlefield, but a field, blooming soft. I didn't need his remorse, I needed my joy, Chloe's laugh. Lily's art, David's care. Resentment was his chain, not mine, and I broke it, not with force, but with choice, steady as roots in soil. The night wrapped me, warm, and I stood, unburdened. A girl who'd claimed her light, eternal as dawn, growing toward a life of love, not hate, forever mine. I burned the letter by the rose bush, its flames curling like petals to the sky, a symbol of my release. The ash fell, mingling with earth, as if the garden welcomed my freedom, its roses glowing under starlight. I watched the fire fade, smoke rising, light as a breeze, and felt chains dissolve, like dew evaporating at dawn. This act wasn't for Richard, but for me, a vow to live unbound, rooted in love. Grandma's locket pulsed, Eleanor's spirit near. There's strength in every spark. Chloe and Lily stood close, their hands in mine, our bond a circle, unbroken, like roots entwined. The garden sang, alive with night's hum, and I knew this was my peace. Not his defeat, but my beginning. I asked myself, could I let go, fully, and still stand? Yes, I had, as Maya, a sister, a daughter, whole, not defined by pain, but by joy. The stars above burned. Eternal, and I stepped forward, into the night's embrace, my heart aflame, bright, unyielding. The earth held me, its pulse mine, and I was free, not from the past, but within it. A rose blooming through stone, eternal as love, forever reaching for light, for dawn, for the life I'd claimed, unshackled, alive. I sat by the rosebush, its bloom soft under dawn's glow, and let silence wrap me, like mist over a quiet valley. No words, just the hum of bees, the breeze through leaves, the locket's faint warmth against my chest. My heart slowed, matching the earth's steady pulse, as I traced my journey, Grandma's porch, the warehouse's smoke, Richard's fall. Each moment, sharp or soft, lived in me, not as wounds, but as roots, deep and enduring. Chloe's laughter echoed faintly, Lily's sketches danced in my mind, and I felt them, Eleanor, David, all part of this stillness. The garden held me, its roses a gentle witness, their petals catching light like stars grounded in soil. I breathed, not to speak, but to be, whole, unhurried, like a river resting in its bed. The pain, the fight, the love, they settled, not gone, but woven, a tapestry of me, Maya, no longer running. I asked myself, could I rest here, in this quiet, and still be enough? Yes, I could, because this silence wasn't empty, but full, alive with all I'd become. The sky lightened, soft gold, and I knew this moment, wordless, was mine, a pause to hold the past, the present, the promise of dawn. The stars faded, yet their light lingered in me, eternal, and I sat, not alone, but complete, rooted in the earth's embrace, ready for whatever bloomed next, steady as the morning's first breath. I turned to you, the unseen listener, my voice soft, like a breeze through open fields, breaking the wall between us. If you're lost in shadows, I said, I'm here, waiting. I spoke from the garden, roses framing me, the locket gleaming, my eyes steady, meeting yours through the screen. I shared my truth, not the hero's tale, but the girls who trembled, fought, found light. You too carry stories, I said, of pain, of love, of rising. Don't hide them, I urged, thinking of Grandma's courage, Eleanor's sacrifice, my sister's hands in mine. The world needs your voice, raw, real. Like a seed breaking stone, I told of my nights, fearing I'd vanish, and how speaking saved me, not for fame, but for me, for us. The stars above, just waking, seemed to listen. They're like a call to you. I asked myself, could my words reach you, wherever you are? Yes, they could, because I was Maya, not alone, but joined, a sister to your struggles. The garden's earth felt warm, alive, and I spoke, not to teach, but to stand with you, in your dark, your dawn. I invited you to step forward, to speak, to claim your place, eternal as roots. Growing toward light, together, in a world where no one's story stays unseen. I leaned closer, the roses bright, and said, tell me your story. Your truth, I urged, could light another's path. Like mine did for Grace, for Ethan, for strangers online. I shared how one voice, mine, small, scared, sparked a chorus, a forest of stories rising. Yours could too, I said, thinking of Chloe's fire. Lily's art, how we'd woven hope from pain. I asked you to write, to speak, to share, not for crowds, but for you, for those waiting for your light. The Foundation's kids, their smiles bold, showed me no story was too small, each a star in a vast sky. I stood in the garden, locket warm, and felt it. Your voice, untold, was a seed, ready to bloom. I asked myself, could your story save someone, as mine had? Yes, it could, because we're bound, not by pain alone, but by courage, eternal as earth. The stars shone, kind, and I called you to join us. To hashtag your truth, to let it ripple, like a river touching distant shores. I was Maya, one voice among many, calling you to rise, to bloom, to share, not for fame, but for love, for light. Eternal as dawn, forever growing in a world where every story, yours, mine, ours, holds the power to heal, to hope, to shine. I stood in the garden, roses aglow under morning's light, and felt a warmth, deep as earth, for you who've listened. Thank you, I said, hand on heart, locket gleaming, for walking this path with me, from Grandma's porch to Richard's fall. To this quiet dawn. Your eyes, unseen but felt, held me through fear, through fire, through truth's heavy bloom. You heard my voice, raw, trembling, and stayed, like stars steady in a restless sky. I shared my scars, Eleanor's loss, Chloe's courage, Lily's art, and you shared yours, a chorus woven with mine. The Foundation's kids, Grace's smile, Ethan's hope, live because you listened. Your heart's a soil where their dreams grow. I asked myself, could strangers become kin through stories? Yes, you have, each comment, each view, a root in our shared ground. The roses swayed, their scent clean, as if Grandma and Eleanor stood near, grateful too. I was Maya, not alone, but joined, your faith a breeze lifting my wings. You didn't just hear, you saw me whole. A girl who rose from shadows, now bathed in light. The stars, fading in day's glow, promised we'd meet again, in stories yet untold. This thanks isn't an end, but a bridge, eternal as love. Connecting us, a family not of blood, but of truth, blooming like dawn's first rays, forever held in the earth's embrace, where your presence, kind and true, made my story, our story, alive. I looked to tomorrow, the horizon soft with promise, like a field awaiting spring. I don't know what's next, I said, standing by the rosebush, its blooms bold, but I'm not afraid. The future was open, a sky uncharted, yet I trusted it, as I'd trusted Chloe's hand, Lily's silence, David's care. The locket pulsed, Grandma's courage, Eleanor's love, guiding me forward. Not to safety, but to life, raw and real. I'd face new storms, new joys, with the same heart that broke Richard's lies, that built the Foundation's hope. The garden hummed, alive. Its roses a vow to keep growing, like me, unyielding as roots in stone. I dreamed of more, kids like Grace finding homes, stories like yours lighting paths. I asked myself, could I walk into the unknown, steady, whole? Yes, I could, because I was Maya, forged in pain, shaped in love, a girl who'd learned to stand, not for certainty, but for faith. The stars, though hidden, lived in me, their light eternal, and I felt it. Tomorrow wasn't a threat, but a gift, a canvas for hope. The earth held me, warm, and I smiled, not knowing the road, but ready. My heart aflame, bright, unbowed, forever reaching for a dawn I'd meet, alive, with you, in a world of stories yet to bloom. I called you to act, my voice clear, like a river's song. Standing by the roses, locket warm. Don't hide your story, I urged, for you who've risen, fallen, fought in silence. Your truth, like mine, could spark a light, save a heart, like Grace's. Like mine was saved. Share it, I said, in words, in art, in quiet acts, a seed to grow hope. I saw Chloe's fire, Lily's sketches, our fight. In new one voice could weave a forest, eternal as earth. If you've stood from shadows, I said, let others see, let them stand too. The stars above burned, kind, a call to you. I asked myself, could your story change the world, as mine did? Yes, it could, because we're bound, not alone, but together, roots entwined. The garden glowed, dawn breaking, and I urged you. Write, speak, hashtag your truth, let it ripple, like my story did. Touching lives unseen. I was Maya, one voice among many, calling you to rise, to bloom, to share, not for fame, but for love, for light, eternal as dawn, forever growing in a world where every story, yours, mine, ours, holds the power to heal, to hope, to shine.